everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Hello.
Sam Healy. Welcome back, folks.
Welcome to Dice Tower Dive, where we take a look at a topic, a board game or something like that, and learn more about it. Or talk about it.
I don't think we're, yeah, I mean, I hope you educate me about something, Carcassonne.
Watch the video I made.
Well, not yet, but
After the fact?
Oh.
okay. So Carcassonne
During the fact.
is a game based on the city of Carcassonne. Whoops, man, there we go. This is like a place I would go see. Have you been there?
No.
Okay, would you go there?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
It does look awesome, and it looks very close to...
It is a French fortified city.
Looks very close to what you see in the game, actually.
Yeah, so I think this is one of those times where the theme is there. Anyhow, I just figured I'd show a picture of the game, of the city to get started. But Carcassonne is what we're talking about today. Carcassonne is designed by Klaus Jurgen Andrade, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he's best known for Carcassonne.
Carcassonne, yes.
I mean, he's done other games, Mesopotamia. Probably his second most famous game is Downfall of Pompeii, where you throw the little dudes in a volcano.
Yeah.
But if you look at his gameography, it is Carcassonne.
Carcassonne, yeah.
And that's the thing with Carcassonne, right?
With expansions. And
Carcassonne is
Yes.
known for having expansions.
And
Now-
spin-offs and many things, yes.
And we're going to be going through those today, talking about those.
All right.
Because I made these slides, and it's happening.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so anyway, Carcassonne, the game itself, tile-laying game. I first learned of Carcassonne myself from reading about it in Games Magazine. I remember seeing the tiles being laid, and they were talking about building farms and cities, and I remember thinking, ooh. At the time, I was playing collectible card games, and this looked not that interesting.
Sure.
When did you first see it?
I don't know. It was when we were...
In Korea?
We were in Korea, yeah. So it was probably well after that, maybe. Or not too far after. I don't know.
It was a couple years, I think. This is one of the first games we got. Actually, we played a variant of it, which we'll talk about in a bit.
I got it. I played it. This was one of my 2 gateway games. I don't actually remember which one came first, this or San Juan. But those were the 2 games I bought that were not, Toys R Us games.
Yeah.
That I picked up, and so yeah, it was.
This was definitely in that batch for me, I guess. But I think I was more into like the Risk 2210 and those kinds of games.
And you were still playing a lot more conflict-oriented games at that point.
Coming out of the mass market-y stuff. Because 2210 was not really a mass market. I mean, I guess it is still.
It was
Risk,
like one
but
step geekier than that,
Right,
maybe. Yeah.
So let's go through the history of Carcassonne, shall we? So Carcassonne came
The
out.
city, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
The game
When was
came
it
out.
built?
just wait.
72 tiles in the original game. 5 players that could play. Each one got these little meeples. You place them on roads, in cities, in the fields, or in abbeys.
Cloisters, right?
Cloisters.
Cloisters, sorry, not abbeys, because that comes later.
Yes.
Terminology, they all meant something different, and I always got them mixed up. Like, I think in a city it's called a knight.
The city, it's a knight. In the road, it's a thief or a robber. In the cloister, it's a monk, I think.
And in the field is a farmer.
In the field is a farmer.
That I know because you're constantly saying, let's score the farmers at the end of the game.
Correct.
And Carcassonne definitely has more rules for farmers. I mean, I think there's 4 different ways to score farmers over the
Depending
years.
on which version you sort of learned with, you might know a different way to score the farmers than other people. I remember when I got it, the scoring was, go field by field instead of farm by farm or something. It was 4 points instead of 3.
Yeah.
They changed it a few times. Yeah. I eventually had in my own copy of Carcassonne a handwritten 3x5 with the latest version of those rules, so that I would score, so that I could play and score with the newest way they were doing it now. But this is one of those things.
All right, so Carcassonne came out, very popular game, won the Spiel des Jahres fairly handily, was being played everywhere. People liked the idea of just playing the tiles out and building the city. So the very first expansion came out in 2001. Carcassonne came out in 2000, and this was the river. And this basically split up the fields to the point where this became such a thing that eventually they just included it with the game. I think by 2004, if you bought Carcassonne, it said, with the river included.
That's right.
And I think I almost always play with the river. It's so if you have this little river expansion, that's almost rare now. You don't need it. I can't. I think it comes
its own, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes.
So the game was very popular, and whenever a game is popular, spin-offs come off. So real quickly, I'll show you. This is the current modern. This is the first spin-off, Hunters and Gatherers. This is the modern version and the original cover. Hunters and Gatherers, when it came out, I distinctly remember this was almost like the, you play ordinary Carcassonne? I play Hunters and Gatherers. And people said, never playing ordinary Carcassonne again. This is the way to go. This is the future. There was one expansion for this, and it disappeared.
There was?
Well, we'll talk about that. There was a half expansion for this.
I never knew that one. Yeah, okay.
They didn't release the whole thing?
I'll show you in a second. But Hunters and Gatherers, it was a standalone game. You built forests, rivers, wildlife. They made the farmers easier by basically, you had these animals that you would put your guys on top of, and wolves would eat the animals, and so on and so forth.
Tasty.
I played this one. I did not enjoy it as much as regular Carcassonne, but for a while it was very popular.
I never did play this one, actually.
Then they came out with their first real expansion. The river was a small expansion. The first expansion, Inns and Cathedrals. So I'm showing the new covers. I'm just going to be showing most of the time the new covers of stuff that ZMan has. But Inns and Cathedrals is almost a necessary expansion, in my opinion, for a few things. One, it introduces tiles that kind of tie things together. You don't notice that they're there, but different combos of the roads / cities. And it added the Inns and Cathedrals, which... You had it added the extra player, I think. It had the large figure though.
That counted as two.
That's counted as two.
Right.
And I think some versions of Carcassonne might even come with that in them. I can't remember.
I know I didn't. Mine did not. And I don't think I ever got this expansion. Actually, I started with the next one.
Well, the next one is not an expansion, actually.
Well, I mean the next expansion.
Okay, the next one is actually 2 more spin-offs that came out 2 years later, and the Ark of the Covenant actually. Maybe the first Carcassonne you played. That's what I was saying earlier. It's possible. Ark of the Covenant was very similar to Carcassonne, except there was this little ark that you moved around and tried to control. Reiner Knizia got involved and helped design Carcassonne the castle.
You didn't really control the ark. You wanted to have it score on your meeples as you moved past.
But it did move. I remember it moved in a straight line.
You could move. Instead of scoring one of your meeples, you could move the ark around and score for every meeple. It moved a certain number of squares or less, and you could score if it passed by your meeple.
Got it. Okay, it's been a long... this came out in 2003. I last played it in 2003 because I liked it and it was fun, but there was no expansions. Carcassonne was a very similar game and there was expansions for it, so that's the one I continued to play.
Yeah.
The castle was really fun for me when I first played it. It's a 2-player only version. It's a little more deterministic. The layout is pretty much the same every time you play. The way the tiles fit in are different. This was also supplanted by another game we'll talk about later in the Carcassonne series for me. Did you like the castle?
Yeah, I still own my copy of the castle. I like it because it's different enough from the original one and the spin-offs. This really was a very different game. It was only for 2. You had the castle wall already designed. It was a much more, much closer look at what the action in one part of the city,
Sure.
And then the tiles would hit the edge of that. You also had this idea of scoring. Your scoring marker sat on the outer wall, and if you were able to score exactly what you needed, you would land at these corners and earn a bonus, a piece of cardboard that was sitting there. So sometimes it was better to score, 5 points rather than 7, because you would overshoot the bonus. So it was interesting. You could try to manipulate that. Yeah, I like the castle. It's different enough. That's the thing.
Then the second expansion for Carcassonne came out, and this is the expansion that I consider, I want to say this is my favorite expansion.
Yeah, this is
It's definitely my top. Traders and Builders. This added several things. It added trade goods, which made it where you wanted to finish a city even if you weren't in it.
Correct.
To get the trade goods. It also added the builder piece, which was awesome. If you have the builder piece somewhere, you would place, and you add, I'll tell you, the builder in a road, you add a piece of that road, then you put out another tile.
That's right. You could play again. Yeah.
And also added a pig, which was the most pointless part of the expansion, but whatever.
But it was a cute little pig.
It made your farm better. And the pig, I would like to go back and look. You know how we have all these something meeples and dino meeples? I think the pig was like the first not human little wooden figure that people were using in games. Maybe not.
After they started saying meeple? Because the term meeple does largely come from Carcassonne.
For sure.
So I don't know. That might have been it then. Yeah.
Oh, man.
It also came with a cloth bag to draw the tiles. Either way, if you have Carcassonne, you should get this expansion.
This is the best one, I would say. This was the first one I got, and I would say it's still the best one.
Then they said, hey, people buy big expansions. Let's make mini ones. So there was a lot of these. So here's one that very few people have. What's this called? The Cathars, where you could have like broken walls. This came in the Spiel box. I got this one, and so you could make it basically made the city walls go down in value, but monasteries would be better if they were put next to it. Then King and Scout. So this is what I was talking about earlier. King and Scout was a single expansion that had stuff for Carcassonne and for Carcassonne Hunters and Gatherers. So it only got half an expansion. And that had like 5 tiles, I think. It was not very much.
Yeah, I remember those really cute little boxes. I remember seeing them at the local game store. And they were, all the different ones. You'll talk about them later, I'm sure. But yeah, I like seeing those little ones because it was sort of just enough to kind of mix it up. But they were like $4, I think.
Keeping track of all of them was a pain.
Yeah.
The next one here, the Count of Carcassonne.
Oh, yeah.
This one was such a pain for me because you put out these tiles. It came in this little box, and you put out these tiles and made this starting city, this big giant city, that you move this count around, and basically the count would let you paratroop meeples into different areas. But what I didn't like was I didn't like building the city all the time, so I actually got a piece of paper and glued them all to it. So it was just one board that I could put out at the beginning. I got tired of like building this puzzle every game. I know I got the idea from the internet. I think someone else did it too.
Yeah, and the only reason they sold it like that is so they could put it in that little box. But this probably would have been better as a postcard expansion, right? I mean, we have those now, but I don't think that was much of a thing back then.
Well, this actually was later on incorporated into a larger expansion. This one, some people didn't like, though. They didn't like that whole, hey, are you controlling the city? Look, I dropped some guys in it. That was...
Yeah.
It's cool when you do it, not cool when it happens to you.
Dropping guys in was a recurring theme in some of the other ones.
The next spin-off, Carcassonne the City. Still, in my opinion, the best of all the spin-offs. Probably Sam will disagree, but he's played more spin-offs than I have.
Yeah.
This is the one that you're saying replaced the castle for you?
For me, yeah. This actually originally came in a wooden box, which was cooler than it was functional.
Sure. This is probably my favorite one as well. The only one I have now besides the tower, the Reiner Knizia one, is this one. Just those two.
I thought you still said you still had the castle.
Yeah, besides that one, this is the only one I have. So the only only one that still feels like a proper Carcassonne, and I think this does, with a couple of tweaks of the scoring rules, this and that. The castle, to me, feels like it uses tile laying. It's a very different thing. So that was the first one where sides didn't need to match. You could do whatever you wanted. And the castle, it was like, do whatever you want. This, though, I would say, of all the Carcassonne proper, if you would, yeah, it's the best one.
Have you played this one, Sam?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it fine. I think a lot of the new Around the World series games, I think are better than this.
Sure, that's what I said. This is my favorite channel. I think yours will show up a little bit later.
Yeah. I think they're better because they do basically what the base game does, just in a slightly different way. So it's not a large departure from the game. Mm-hmm. It's still very true to the original game, but it still feels different.
Right.
Then in 2004, they also came out, or 2005, Carcassonne the Discovery. This one wasn't the first one that was not designed by Klaus, Jurgen, and Andrade. It was designed by Leo Calamini. I thought I would not like this one because I don't care for his designs for the most part.
Right.
But I actually did enjoy this one because you could put out a worker or you could pull workers off.
Right.
Which was a you didn't automatically, when you finished something, it didn't score. You had to pull your workers off the score. You might be thinking of a different Carcassonne.
I do.
Huh?
You're thinking you're thinking of the Western Discovery or whatever.
Oh, we'll get to
New
that.
World.
I'll herald that one. This one I enjoyed, but I haven't played since.
This one I never did play. It sounded very clever, and I know that mechanism itself is something that a lot of more modern tile-laying games I've used. The idea of having to not just populate the board and you score, hey, you got everything back, but having to deal with that timing.
Well, we saw this later on in like Manhattan Project, put out the workers or pull them off.
Right.
It's a pretty cool idea.
This was a forward-thinking one. I never played it, but that mechanism was something that
looks
has
boring now.
carried on.
Although all Carcassones looked fairly boring until they started making them look prettier as time went by.
Mm-hmm.
The next expansion, The Princess and the Dragon. This was the first expansion where you could be slightly mean to each other by moving the dragon to kill people's meeples, although the fairy could protect them. It wasn't super mean because you had to kind of draw the tile and then work hard to get the dragon into that corner. And I think they just made it so they could have it called The Princess and the Dragon.
Right.
It's not an extremely... like, it's a forgettable expansion, I guess is the best word. I don't dislike it. I think it's fine.
I think many of the Carcassonne expansions are forgettable.
Sure, but like we just the first two expansions, like Abbey, I mean, I forget the names of them, but the Traders and
Inns and
Builders.
Cathedrals.
I will play Inns and Cathedrals is solid.
Yeah.
Traders
This was
and
the first
Builders,
one where it's kind of like cool, but do you need to make all these expansions?
First of many.
Yeah, I never played this one.
Yeah, we're only on slide 15. I got 35 more slides.
Let's do it.
All right, then the River 2, which was the same thing as the River. They just needed to add all the stuff from the first three expansions on the side of the river. That's why you see some pigs there from one of the expansions.
Yeah, the camps and all that stuff.
All right. Then the very interactive expansion came out in 2006, The Tower.
That's one way to put it. Interactive. This is mean through and through.
Here's the thing, though. Even if you don't like mean Carcassonne, you still might want to get this just because that tower where you draw the things from is pretty solid.
And that's the one thing that I kept from this.
Oh, like you just kept this?
Yep.
The towers, though, like you build those towers up and then you're like just shooting meeples off the board. It is easily the meanest of the expansions, I think.
And it's really what makes Carcassonne feel not like Carcassonne anymore. That's why I don't play with it anymore.
I didn't mind it. You just have to go in knowing that you're doing that.
Yeah, but this was brutal. I mean, the towers, as you built those stacks of little wooden blocks on the board, if you got up to level 3, then you could wipe anybody out, like pluck somebody off the board up to 3 spaces away from that. Unless the other players, or player, this is a great 2-player game, so I did that a lot, would cap off the tower and not allow it to continue growing, but then you lost one of your meeples permanently by doing that, by stopping the tower.
Yeah.
And then the other player or players would just immediately draw another tile that let them put towers on there. So there were just too many of them.
Well,
There were like 18 tiles that allowed you to put out towers. So,
but not if you include it with everything.
Then you could dilute this a little bit. Yeah.
This one is not as popular.
This is definitely not an every time you play kind of expansion. Whereas Traders and Builders, I would say, yeah, sure. I can do that every time. The tower, you're going to have some upset folks at your table.
However, I still do like pulling the tiles from that thing. That's pretty nice. And it also stores them nicely in the box.
Well, I was just thinking about that.
I remember the tower not fitting in my box.
It didn't. Because it's not...
in the base box.
It's not. It's thicker on one end than it is at the other.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Also, though, if you want to shuffle them, you got to dump them all out, move them all around, then put them back in that box.
This was better than the bag.
Yes.
Then there's a couple more mini expansions. The first one was just called the Mini Expansions. It came out in Games Magazine. Mm-hmm. It had a spring, which would start the river, and just some more pieces, some combos. And then this other one is the Cult, which later showed up in a bigger expansion.
Yeah, I had one of those small ones, which is called what was it called? Cult Something and Creativity. Right?
It's coming.
Yeah, okay.
I got a slide for everything.
I had that.
Actually,
I'll
I might
talk
not have
about
a slide for everything. If I missed something, I apologize. This was a lot of work.
I'll talk about that when it comes up then.
The next big expansion was Abbey and Mare. This one had buildings or barns. It had wagons where you could move them and score things.
Abbey and horses? Mayor?
Mare.
Oh, mayor.
Mare. The best thing about this one, this was an okay expansion with the extra stuff. That tile there, that red tile, I love that piece because you could just drop that in and fill something.
Why is part of the road redacted?
Redacted? What do you mean?
You mean underneath that wagon? That yellow wagon?
No, there's a black something
No,
over
it's
there.
a wagon.
Oh, it's a wagon casting
Looks like
a
the
shadow.
road's been redacted. I'm like, what piece of classified information is on that road?
Yeah.
It's just a
black
black wagon with a shadow.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
But that red tile, you had one of those that you could use over the course of the game, and you could basically plug a hole and it would finish everything around it. Or at least stop the roads and stuff. If you had that big city and you just couldn't find that tile to shut it down, boom, you drop these in. The only thing I didn't like about them, not pretty. Right, it doesn't flow with the board.
Look right, yeah.
Breaks up the content.
But I really love those tiles because you can fix something on the board essentially.
Yeah, this, again, never played this one.
Then we have Count, King, and Robber. Here they added some of the stuff. So the River 2 expansion was in here. The Count mini expansion was in here. And there were King and Robin Baron tiles for people who bid the largest city and the biggest road. And also the cult stuff was in here too, I believe.
Huh.
A bunch of small stuff.
Okay.
So around this time, I'm not sure the exact year, Rio Grande lost the license for Carcassonne and it moved to ZMan. Somewhere in this time frame, not quite sure.
Okay.
Maybe it was a couple years later. Here we have Cult, Siege, and Creativity, where they...
Are these chronologically organized?
Yes, they are.
Well, then it still hadn't happened.
Yes, because of this. All right. You're right, because now...
Yeah, this I had, and this was... Do you have any more slides for this?
No.
Because Cult was the one you just showed, and they were competing with the cloisters.
Right.
You could build one next to a cloister or near it, and whoever completed their own would score their 9 points, and then the other one would get booted. So they were competing, right? And then Siege was the same one as before with the open walls.
The Cathars, right.
Yeah, and then Creativity was the best one of all. Two blank tiles.
This make your own
could draw.
Carcassonne.
You
I'm
could
sorry.
make your own 2 tiles, baby. Yeah, it was the best.
Rio Grande was doing...
best.
This came out very close to the time where they did the same thing with Race for the Galaxy. Where they're like, here's an expansion, build your own.
Yeah, it was like 17 cards for the game and 22 blank ones.
Yeah.
There were almost more, I don't remember, I might be exaggerating, but there were almost more blank cards than game cards.
Now we come to the low point of the Carcassonne
Oh.
life. Two things are the low point. First was
What
a
could it be,
spinoff,
Sam? What
and the
could it
second
be?
is an expansion.
Catapult.
Okay, so first let's do the spinoff. New World. In my opinion, the worst Carcassonne by a mile.
I saw these at Barnes & Noble.
So
On
the way
deep
this one worked is
Deep
you are building your Carcassonne out. You have to build from the side. You're building the new world. But there was this white piece down there, I think the Surveyor, I think it was called. And when he moved, he killed all the meeples in the same line as him. So you had to finish stuff as fast as you could. You'd be like, I'm building a little town. I'm building a little road. Because if you didn't build it, he would come and wipe it out. There was no building anything big. And I can't tell you how fun that is to be like, oh, I'm starting to build something. No, you're not. Hang on, I'm going to build. No, you're not. It just was so, I hate this one.
I played this. I don't remember being so disgusted by it, but it also was not, it didn't make an impression.
And then the expansion,
To the original game,
the Catapult.
this is a classic, one of the best.
I
That
don't,
dude.
I
That
like
dude sitting on the catapult.
I like this expansion. I do. I like that Catapult. I still have it. But I will admit,
You never use
it's pretty
They
stupid.
use it mostly as a back
it.
scratcher.
You
these
never
days.
use it. Come on.
I'm so glad I got this. So the Catapult, you had these 4 pieces, and you would catapult them onto the board, and how they landed, where they landed, stuff would happen.
You would try to catapult them onto the board.
When people make fun of Carcassonne, this is what they point to.
Yes.
This was the low point, 2008. However,
Yes.
right after that, they tried to come back with Wheel of Fortune. So this was a standalone game that was basically normal Carcassonne, but it had this wheel in the middle, and there was a meeple moving around it, and stuff could happen. It was more
Yes.
random than Carcassonne. I liked it, but
You had this for a while, didn't
well,
you?
it's compatible with Carcassonne, so I was like, I'm keeping everything in one big box.
Okay. I don't think I ever played it, but I remember seeing your copy of it, and yeah, the sort of the central piece was interesting.
I believe the Catapult is stored in this box.
Did you see how disgustingly off-center that punch board was?
Yeah, did that make you? Is that bothering you?
Amazingly horrible. Oh
that
my
bothering you?
goodness.
All right.
Yeah, go back, Roy. Show him. Look how nasty that is.
Well,
No,
hang
too
on.
far. Look how nasty that is.
Okay.
That is.
And that was a good one. They got way worse.
All right. Well, anywho, so now, with the lack of success of these, I think, they decided to branch off into other things. So we had the badly named Carcassonne.
This was not good, man. I think you liked it, but
I really like Carcassonne. It has nothing to do with Carcassonne. It's basically a push your luck, add cards to piles, and take them.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot, actually.
Really? I did not like this, no.
And
It's been a long time. Maybe I went into it expecting Carcassonne. That's the thing, right?
Do not do that. It has nothing to do
Maybe
with
that's
Carcassonne.
it. Maybe I just need to replay it. But who am I lying to? I'm not going to replay this.
My first Carcassonne is for kids. Essentially, every tile connects to every tile when you place it down, but you're trying to build things to get your meeples on the board.
Okay.
Really nice, great for kids. Back to expansions. Bridges, castles, and bazaars.
I think around here is
where
when
you
the switch
jumped off?
happened. No. I mean, clearly, I haven't played one of these in a while. I said the expansions anyway. But I think it was around here, expansion 8, that Rio Grande was done and ZMan stepped in.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure exactly. Sam, did you play this one?
I don't recall.
This has those big bridges where you could connect roads, like across tiles.
No, I get that. Yeah, I know what it does. I just don't remember ever having played it. I don't even think I own it.
All right, well, now it's time to take a look at a slew of mini things. Crop circles.
Yep.
The plague. That's the one with the red pieces down there.
Yep.
What else do we have? This school. That's these two here. I don't remember what that does. There's 6 roads branching off. You could claim the
ghost,
teacher meeple.
man. You got the ghost in there, man.
The festival, and then the ghost with the clear
The
meeples.
see-through
that,
meeples.
that people bought solely because at that point in time, translucent meeples, people were just like,
That was
What?
amazing. Ghost.
yeah, I don't know that I played with any of these things.
Oh, you don't. The crop circles is where it's at.
What did the crop circles do?
I don't remember, but I got
Pairs
some
of symbols that let you take stuff off or add them to other tiles.
something. Yeah, I remember there was a set of 6 mini expansions. I'm assuming that's coming up.
That's coming soon too. Yes.
Yeah, the way that worked, I bought like 2 or 3 of them. The ones that sounded good. You would get 1 crop circle tile.
Yes, that's
in
crop circles.
each one.
But that's crop circles 2.
Oh, excuse me. That's the sequel. They're recropping.
Recropping.
All right.
So I've got like 2 or 3 crop circles, but they don't even do anything.
Do you remember this? The 10-year anniversary edition?
Yeah,
Came
and
in
the
a tin.
really awful tin. Yeah.
So, but this
Look
came
at that
with
scoreboard. Look at that silly scoreboard.
it came with translucent meeples. So again, people were like, "What? Got to get my translucent meeples."
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Then I know this is where Z-Man took over because the winter edition of Carcassonne was that
Yes.
thing was like, hey, same thing, but snow.
Yeah.
And then the dice game, that was the last thing I think Rio Grande might have put out. Or Hans im Glück. This was not an excellent game.
Yeah. It looks not a.
Looks like
not
a cow.
excellent.
Looks great.
Carcassonne.
right.
They could have sold that.
Mukasone.
Then they have the 6 mini expansions that came out.
Ooh, let me see. Which ones did I get? I got the flyer, which was the first one. You would like put
The
a
flying
towel.
machines.
Yeah, you would put a towel out, and the guy would jump from there to an adjacent one. I had the second one, the
Messengers.
The messengers was the best one, I think. And I think I had either 3 or 4.
The ferries I liked a lot. That's the boat one. That's the third, number 3,
Yeah.
where you could extend a road.
No, I don't think I had that. Okay.
And there was the gold mine. That's the 4th one, where you could have gold pieces,
Okay.
bonus points. Then the 5th one, mage and witch.
No.
And then the last one, the robbers. But guess what? All of them came with a corn circles 2 tile.
That's
and if
right.
you got all 6,
Crop
then
circle.
you had crop circles.
actually it was called corn circles. For
Yeah. Okay.
I looked up crop circles at BG and I couldn't find it. I was like, where is it? I know this exists. It's called corn circles.
Interesting.
All right, now Samuel comes on board because hang on, let me get back here. South Seas in 2013, ZMan came out with the new Carcassonne Around the World series, and I know this is where, for some reason, at this point, Sam became our Carcassonne reviewer. No, it happened. I don't know what happened.
Well, it's because I was the one that was interested in these. I wasn't stuck on the city or the castle.
I think we all played this one. I liked it.
I played this one. It was good. Yeah.
No, I like how it's introduces what was a set collection, I think it was, where you're trying to collect the different things that each of the islands produced and stuff like that. So
this one's also a really pretty one.
Yeah, that's what most of these little around the world series games do. They introduce one other kind of mechanic other than tile laying. But you're still tile laying, that's the main component, but it introduces something else.
But they usually would get rid of the farmer. Usually it was like, farmer's gone, here's something different. And every time you're like, that's so much better than the farmer.
Well, aren't technically now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you buy Carcassonne now, aren't the farmers optional?
They're like an advanced variant, but I still teach them because I want that fourth thing to do.
Yeah, but I mean, they eventually did they're slowly phasing it out.
Well, this Around the World series didn't take off like I thought it would. This first one came out in 2013. There's only 4. I thought there would be like one every year. But they did do one the next year, Gold Rush. I do not believe I played this one. I think you two did, though.
I did not play this
one. Oh, so just Sam did.
This is probably my least favorite.
Oh, really? You didn't like this one?
Well, it has that...
oh, you can steal stuff from other people?
Yeah. It has that... I don't know. Carcassonne has always been about interaction, but it's kind of like distant interaction where you can mess somebody up by playing a tile that they didn't want you to play there or something to that effect. This one was more direct, kind of like the other one was. The tower was very direct interaction where you're stealing something from somebody or you're taking one of their pieces off. That I didn't like very much. I mean, I enjoyed the theme. I think they did good. I think the board looks great, but I just didn't like that mechanic.
Okay.
But they still decided to keep making expansions. So, Hills and Sheep, expansion number 9. And when they say expansion number 9, they're only saying big expansions.
Yeah, really. Come on. This is expansion 37.
I don't believe I played this one. I think Sam did this one, the Hills and Sheep.
Maybe. But, yeah, I did.
I feel like I've seen this one, but I don't remember playing it.
Well, here's the thing, though. They apparently like the word hills because then they made Carcassonne Over Hill and Dale.
Yeah.
Which was another standalone game where there's fruits and veggies.
Yeah.
But this is not an Around the World one.
No. It's super confusing.
How was this? You played this one?
Yeah.
Didn't really like it?
It's forgettable, yeah.
It's forgettable.
But then they kept going with the Around the World series to one of the nicest looking ones in the whole series, Amazonas.
This is my favorite.
This one is probably the best looking of all the games.
I love the racing down the river aspect that it adds to it. Just really, it's a really fun.
I never played this
really
one.
Fun version.
Then we have Under the Big Top, expansion 10. This one I definitely did not play.
Under the Big Top.
Did you play this one?
Nope.
So this one,
I'm so lost by
now. The
now.
problem is, like for everybody, there's like an expansion that you get off at. At this point, we're all off.
I don't know.
I thought for sure we got this one.
Nah, I mean, I don't think
this might be on your pile somewhere.
No, I don't think that's the case.
I don't remember this one at all. Like the name doesn't even sound familiar anymore.
All right, well this next one I think Sam played, Safari.
Yes.
This is the newest one, 2018. Mm-hmm. I believe it came out at Essen?
Yeah, and played it at PAX last year.
And it kind of looks like Hunters and Gatherers a little bit.
Yeah, it
has the same color palette.
It's one of the things that I didn't like about it. The boards, the tiles are very monochromatic.
Lots of sand.
Yeah, lots of sand.
Or savanna, I guess.
Or dried grass, yeah.
One thing I haven't mentioned, because I don't know the exact dates they came out, but this even muddies the water further, are the big boxes. I believe there are 6 different big boxes.
You serious?
Say what?
Well, here's 4 of them.
Okay, right.
Each one comes with the base game and then various other expansions.
But not like a specific set of them.
And some of the expansions, like for example, the one there has in Cathedrals, Traders and Builders, The Tower, and Princess and Dragon.
Okay.
This has into Cathedrals, Traders and Builders, Hills and Sheep, and Wheel of Fortune. So you don't want to buy both of those because you're going to get...
Yeah, 2 core sets.
And the one at the top there has a bunch of those weird expansions. That one, I think, has all the mini expansions, the light blue one.
They all need the core set, and they all have the core set.
I guess you could pick the one that has the ones that you like the most and then add the others.
But because of the way these are built, they have those nice inserts.
You can't
So
fit
any
anything else
expansion
in?
you got to keep outside.
Shame, shame, shame.
Well, I think
insanity.
Sam's right, though. If you want to play Carcassonne, I think this is the way to go. Pick one of these
Oh, sure.
and just play with that.
Yeah.
I don't even know which one to recommend, though, because both of these bottom ones come with the 2 strong expansions in cathedrals and traders and builders.
Yeah, but they're probably not even available all at the same time.
Just be careful when you buy one. There's
I
so
assume
many
some
of
of
them.
these have cycled out of print and others have come in and replaced them. But it's not a collector's edition because it's not everything. And it's not even like an omnibus style collection, right? Like this is the base game, expansions 1 through 5. Then later we saw you expansions 6 through 10.
Right.
No. It's the core again, and then like 1, 4, 6, 9. It's like, what?
Yeah, so collecting all these, you're really just replicating stuff.
Don't do it.
Another good thing that Carcassonne did,
Get 'em
though,
all.
Carcassonne is available on pretty much anything electronic.
What
It is
is
available on the Switch, the Xbox, iOS. It's available on the DS.
So it's popular. is what you're
Steam
saying.
has it. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the different ones look good. I don't know which one I like the best. Do you like the 3D look or do you like the straight down? I believe the bottom corner is the iOS, I want to say.
What's the
No, the snow one I think is iOS, actually.
That looks like a blueprint to me instead of a game.
Do you
but
like the straight top
I like
down?
the top-down one, yeah. And I've played on the iOS. They have one mode on there which you can play, to adapt the game to be playable solitaire, which was neat, and I like that.
I didn't like it because it was just a big puzzle.
It was puzzly, yeah. It was
It's
just a
basically
big puzzle.
try to get a bunch of points. I just want to play the game.
Yeah, that wasn't it. But you could do that too, of course. But the puzzle that they wrapped around it, I thought was interesting. I definitely prefer that top-down look, though.
Someone just said, I must have missed a slide in here. I must have.
You did.
I did. I apologize. I made the
one?
slide. I must have copied over it. But Carcassonne Star Wars. Sorry. Here's the thing about Carcassonne Star Wars.
It's not Carcassonne.
Well, first of all,
It is.
it's ridiculous that the combo even happened.
That's true.
Secondly, I believe it includes dice.
Yes. Because you can actually have combat.
Thirdly, you can't get it in the U.S.
True.
So, have fun. It's expensive.
Fourthly, it's not Carcassonne.
No, it is Carcassonne. Definitely.
Not Carcassonne.
All right, we're going to talk about our thoughts on Carcassonne as a whole, but before we do that, let's jump to our contributors to see what they think.
Hello, my name's Jonathan from Vogue M Opinions. Now, Carcassonne is another one of those classic gateway games, and I can remember when I first played Carcassonne, I got it very soon after it came out, and it was a revolution at the time. Now, it might feel like some very stereotypical board game components with the meeples and you're placing tiles. There's loads of tile placement games these days. But at the time, it was revolutionary for one key fact, which is that you were building the board. Now, traditional board games come with a board and you open the board and then you get your pieces and you play the game. But this idea that you had a bunch of tiles and on your turn you take a tile and you add to the board to actually build it in front of you, this was amazing. I mean, we'd never seen anything like it at the time. And it really stood out, as well as being just very simple to play. This idea of when it's your turn, you just have one tile, you decide where's it going to go. Oh, it's a road piece. I'll put it on the end of the road. And do you put your meeple down? Yes, I'll put my meeple on the road. And obviously you're trying to score points and most points wins. Incidentally, another of the key things though that Carcassonne really introduced was the idea of the meeple. I mean, these are ubiquitous these days. You see them everywhere. But at the time, I don't know if any game did it before Carcassonne, but this is certainly the first game I remember seeing these sort of little figures to represent your workers, if you like. And they just came to be known as meeples. They're this iconic board game image these days. And Carcassonne really started that off. Now, over the years, there have been tons and tons of versions of Carcassonne. They've really milked this one because it does fit that gateway niche really well. You know, as you say, it's simple to play, not too many decisions, plays fairly quick. It has waned a little bit over the years for me, I'd say mainly because when it's not your turn, there's really not a lot to do. You know, you sort of sit there, you wait for everyone else to take your turn, and oh, my turn, I'll play my tile. And then you sit and you wait for everyone else, and then you play your tile. And you can obviously plan ahead, but if other people go where you've gone, then you can sort of be scuppered. It's like, well, where do I go now? And so you have to rethink your turn, and that can slow it down a bit. So I don't know how well it's aged, but in terms of at the time, it was an extraordinary game, and I think definitely deserves its place in the Hall of Fame.
Carcassonne is almost a franchise, or pretty much is. It's got an around the world series like Gold Rush, Safari, Amazonas, and there's at least one other. They're good, but the original game, the base game that I've got a big box version up on the shelf, is the best. Now, it's the best because of its simplicity, which having that many expansions kind of conflicts with. But it's the simple game that's at the core that I love. There's the choice of, do I go for this small dinky 2-tile city and score 4 points? Or do I try and ninja in and nab someone else's big city, or just share the points with them? Do I just create a huge long road that sort of snakes all the way across the board and go for loads of points? It's really great fun. And yeah, there's the randomness of tiles, but it's the enjoyment of building this thing that starts with either a river or a single tile. It starts there. By the end of the game, it's this sort of, not huge, but large map, and it just looks incredible. I have also got expansions for the base game. I don't throw them all in at once. That would be incredible, but crazy. But you can use them just to slightly tweak the game, but the core remains. You add something like a flying machine in, but there's only like 8 of them in like a huge stack of tiles, so it's not massively changed. You can add some lakes in and things like that. They all add to it, but none of them really interfere with the core. And I think that's the sign of a great game, that you don't want that core sort of affected by anything. You don't want that sort of tainted. You enjoy it so much, too much for it to be tainted, and you just want little flares of extraness. I think it's pretty obvious that I really, really do enjoy Carcassonne. It's just the simplicity and the map that it creates. It just ticks the right boxes for me. Anyway, Carcassonne is awesome, let's be honest. And I'm Oliver East, signing out.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another installment of If You Like That, You Might Like This. This week's game is Carcassonne, a game that I consider one of my foundation games. Those are the games that got me into this wonderful world of hobby board games. I still like the simplicity of drawing a tile and playing a tile to build up a wonderful and interesting landscape. So, as usual, I'm going to give you 3 games that if you like the theme, mechanism, or just the feel of Carcassonne, you might enjoy these other games. The first game is based on the theme of Carcassonne, and when I think of Carcassonne, I think of city building. So I'm going to pick Quadropolis. Now, each person is building up their own metropolis, but they are competing against the other players for the shops, parks, public services, and other structures to be placed in their own metropolis. Players are going to be placing out their architects on a 5x5 grid of tiles, and the number of the architect determines where along the row or column you take the tile. So, if you use your 4 architect, you will claim the 4th tile in the row or column. Now, the other players cannot place their architects in that row or column while the tile was removed. You'll then place the newly acquired tile into your city, and all the different types of structures score differently, much like Carcassonne. So proper placement is key when placing the structures in your city. Much like Carcassonne, timing is also important, as is getting the right structures. Carcassonne is about building up the entire landscape and claiming the structures on it, while Quadropolis is on a smaller scale of a single metropolis, but still gives you the satisfaction of when the game is complete, you can look down at the board and see what you have constructed. So that is Quadropolis. The next to recommend is based on the mechanism, and for Carcassonne, I went with tile placement. So the game I went for is Minerva. Now this is another game about building a city by placing tiles. Each round, tiles are placed out on the board, and in turn order, each player is either going to build a tile by playing its costs and placing it into your city. Now each of these tiles will give you an ability when it's triggered. You can also build one of your residences on your turn, which will trigger each tile in the direction from where you place the residence. So you're going to pick, up, down, left, or right. But once the residence is placed, it cannot be activated again, unless of course you use an assistant on the residence, which is the third action you can do on your turn. The last action you can do is just pass, but passing in this game forces each other player to pay if they want to continue to take actions after you have passed. Although the gameplay is very different to Carcassonne, as each player is working on their own city, the main mechanism remains placing a tile into your city to try and create the best city you can, all the while watching what other players are doing to make sure your city comes out on top. That is Minerva. The final game is a wild card game. That is a game that gives me the same feel as Carcassonne, but may not have the same theme or mechanisms. For this week, I went with Medina. Now this is more of an abstract game about rebuilding Medina. You, as the architects and engineers of the city, are working on rebuilding the glorious palaces and fortifying the crumbling walls to hopefully have the inhabitants return to walk the alleys of the new city. On a turn, each player will place 2 pieces onto the board, either expanding an already started structure or adding to an existing one. During the gameplay, each player will claim one of 4 types of buildings, so you want to push your luck to try and build the largest structure possible, but you want to claim it before someone swoops in and takes it. Knowing when to claim your buildings is vital, much like knowing when to claim a city or a field in Carcassonne. This game, much like Carcassonne, the players are building up the board together to see what they're going to make. At the end, you could be looking at a real living, breathing city, and that is Medina. So those are the 3 games that if you like Carcassonne's theme, mechanism, or feel, that I would recommend you check out. I'd love to hear what you suggest in the chat or the comments below.
All right, well, I found the slide for Carcassonne, Star Wars, so that's...
What? That's a real thing?
Not the prettiest looking layout of tiles, but it did have some interesting mechanics, and it was...
It almost sounds like a fake thing, though.
Yeah,
It sounds like a joke, yes.
I thought it was a joke when I first heard of it, absolutely. But the combat mechanism is something new that doesn't completely overthrow the whole idea of...
Are you sure you're not
building.
slightly biased by the fact you like Star
Of
Wars?
course I'm biased because it's Star Wars, but I am trying to be open-minded. I mean, it's not by far the best Carcassonne at all, not even close.
It just bugs me that there's meeples in it.
Yeah, I know.
Why?
But I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that, right? I mean,
don't-
that's Carcassonne's thing.
I guess. It's kind of like Monopoly when they have a theme set of Monopoly, but then the go to jail is still the same thing. That Hasbro forces them to put that on there to brand the
Is that a
things.
space they can't
There's like
change?
certain things you can't change, so maybe that's one of the things about Carcassonne. Can't change the meeples.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to make it more than it is. It is definitely just a gimmicky cash grab. But it did have the interesting, to me at least, combat mechanism that was in there. Other than that, it's largely forgettable.
Do you still have it?
Yeah.
Did you play the expansion?
Yes.
Was that any good?
Nah, I don't recall.
There was
All
an
right.
expansion to this one?
I think it came out this past year, actually.
Really? I figured
Yeah.
this would be a once and done kind of thing, not something that keeps supporting.
Dude, it's Star Wars. At least I'd rather play Star Wars Carcassonne than Star Wars Monopoly or something like that.
Why?
probably
Because it's
true.
just because Carcassonne is a better game, you mean?
Yes.
True.
Sure, I guess.
Carcassonne is a game that I don't play as much as I used to. I still like it a lot. The problem is you have vanilla Carcassonne, and then you have Carcassonne with all these expansions.
And all the different flavors also.
It got to the point where I could only play it with my wife because we knew the expansions, and I didn't want to separate them out every single time.
right.
And then it would be like, turn a tile over. What does this do again? And we looked that up. I printed out like a 40-page combined rule book for Carcassonne. It has all
Really?
the stuff in it. Yes. some guy on Board Game Geek keeps it like a compilation.
Did you ever mix base sets together?
No. I mean, I only ever played the base set. I mixed the Wheel of Fortune in because it's the same exact stuff.
So you had like 2 core sets together at that point, basically, right?
Yes, but I never mixed, for example, like Carcassonne with Winner. That would bug me. They don't match.
Yeah, me too. But could you separate Wheel of Fortune from the original base one?
I think there's icons in the corner. I just decided not to.
Okay.
I said, okay, if I'm going to play Carcassonne with new people, I'll play the city. Or if I had one of the Around the Worlds.
Yeah.
So it's the same way I feel about some of these games. They got a lot of expansions. Ticket to Ride, I have all that stuff mixed in. So then I bring out the Anniversary Edition when I want to play with new people.
Yeah, for me, Carcassonne, I don't play it nearly as often as I used to either, like you're saying, but it definitely inspired a love of tile laying in me, you know. It is still one of my absolutely favorite mechanics or just styles of game. This idea of, you know, building the board you're playing on while you're playing.
Yeah.
And it just sort of, you know, was something that originally when I remember punching Carcassonne actually, thinking, this is amazing. And I would put them together just in my hand as I was punching. I'm like, this is going to be so cool. It was just kind of opening my eyes to what this could be. And it very much was that when I played. So while I don't play it anymore very much, I love discovering new tile laying games, and it all stems from my appreciation of this.
Would you recommend this to someone who's new to gaming?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think it really holds up well.
It's a classic.
You know, it's one of those games that did not incorporate anything that dated it, that makes it feel dated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. I think this is one that if you didn't know anything about it and played it today, you wouldn't know whether it came out last week or 10 years ago.
Right.
That's fantastic.
So one of the things with the game, people mentioned this in the comments, is the fact that almost everyone plays with the house rule that you draw your tile at the end of the game rather than the beginning. When people ask, are there house rules you always play with? That's one.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. When you're done placing your tile, last thing you do on your turn is grab another one.
Mm-hmm. And the game has a thing in it when you're putting the tile out. It's in the rules where they say people can help you figure out where to place it. You know, you can put it there and do this. That's, you know, sometimes in games that's frowned upon to say do this or do that. Obviously, people aren't going to help you win, but you're like, I don't know where to put this. I'm like, hey, you can put it right there, there. You know, like.
Right. Correct.
Some people play where you draw a hand of 3 tiles. That was a very common variant. I did it a couple times, but I found that it really slowed the game down for me. Because someone has a hard time figuring out where to put 1. You give them a hand of 3, they're like.
I agree. Yeah.
Would you rather play Carcassonne over Catan?
Yes.
What about Ticket to Ride?
Depends on the people I'm playing with.
That's a good question. No, I think I'd rather, as of right now, play Ticket to Ride. Yeah.
Well, if you notice in the bottom here, it says more than 10 million games and expansions sold. Now, Carcassonne gets a lot of heat. It's joked about the number of expansion for Carcassonne.
Sure.
And I think there's 9 or 10
10
large
big ones,
ones, and then of course 20 small ones, and beyond that promo tiles. I went to Essen a couple years ago and I found these tiles of like actual buildings. I'm getting those. I went to the booth. They just had promo tiles all over the place. It's like, give it to me. You know? I don't know that I would hate on the company for continuing to make these. It's almost like another Carcassonne expansion. You don't have to buy them, but they must sell for them to keep making them.
Sure, right. Absolutely. And I think it's good for them to keep supporting something.
It could be that it just doesn't cost much money to make these, and they don't care if they make a profit. They're just, hey, that's a good idea. Do it.
Yeah, but it must be then, maybe it is fan service to a certain degree, and they just like sort of supporting or giving things to the people that have supported them this far. But there is no question the game has made money. Right. A lot of money, I assume.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to make a
prediction.
A quick poll here for people who are watching live, which one did I like best of the 3? And Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, and Catan.
Okay.
So I'm going to put that here in the comments. So what do you think people will pick?
Ticket to Ride. No, Catan.
Well,
yeah.
Let's watch. Oh, Carcassonne is winning with 1 vote still winning. But of course, we're talking about Carcassonne, so therefore, by nature, Wouldn't the people coming in pick that? No one's picking Catan.
Nah.
Wow, no one's picking Catan. Is Catan like out for gamers?
Oh, there's one.
Somebody heard you.
Sucker!
Fine.
So
Three votes.
So right now, out of 58, oh, okay, maybe I'll just wait till the votes calm down here. There's a lot of votes coming in on this one. But
Catan is definitely losing by quite a bit, though, right now, which is interesting.
yeah, that is interesting.
I figured Catan would still have the, people would still look upon it with the
Ticket
tinted rose.
Yeah, Ticket to Ride
Rose
has
tinted glasses.
so many copies sold, man. That's seems like it would. I mean, it's got like, what, 10 times? No,
All right.
I don't know. It's got so many more copies than
All right,
both
maybe
of
that's
those.
it.
So out of, well, it looks like we're going to get to 100 votes here. We have 97 right now, but 98. Come on, give me 100. 99. One more. Come on, do it. Okay. So out of 100 votes, 39 say Carcassonne, 50 say Ticket to Ride, and 11 say Catan. So 50% Ticket to Ride, but Carcassonne still has 38% of that. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid. Sorry, Catan.
I guess I was wrong. I really thought that a lot of people probably came on at Catan, or that was one of their first games, and that's a powerful thing. When you that first game you played or got you into the hobby or all that, but maybe it has now been long enough where that's worn off on a lot of people. There are so many games coming out. At some point, you have to form
Catan
that
has a lot of
detachment.
luck. Carcassonne still has that luck, but it also feels like there's none. I got a tile. I'll stick this where I want. I'll pick what I do.
Yeah, sure. But then again, when you need one specific tile and you're not drawing it, that's when you realize there's a lot of luck in that game.
All right. Well, this is live. Before we shut down, if you have any questions or comments about Carcassonne specifically, we'll take those now. If you have anything you want us to, if you have any questions about us with Carcassonne, is it in your collection?
I have Carcassonne the Castle, and I have the City, and I just got rid of Carcassonne. Actually, I just did a segment about letting it go in Chop Shop for breakfast
What about you?
a couple weeks ago.
Of course I have. Yeah, I've
No,
got.
which ones do you have? I know you have
All
more
of
than
it.
one.
I can't tell you the expansions. I know I have the base game. I know I have Gold Rush, Amazonas, Safari, the South Seas one, Star Wars, and Ark of the Covenant. I've got that as well.
Oh, you still have that one, huh?
I didn't get rid of it. So, yeah, I don't know what expansions I have though.
I am going to eventually get all these in the library. I know that I have Carcassonne, the city is in the library. I have regular Carcassonne with like so many expansions. I didn't put that in the library yet because I need to sort them out. It's a mess. But maybe I put one of the big boxes in the library. If not, I will. I might get like 3 of the big boxes, the different ones, stick them in the library, and you pick the one you want to play with.
Yeah.
I just don't think it will get played a lot at conventions. People don't tend to play gateway games as much at conventions.
And they're old. A lot of people go to conventions to play new games. Do you guys think they should have ever done a Carcassonne with differently shaped tiles? Because that was one thing that always held true for all of them. The tiles were always square.
The only one that works, squares works. Hexagons is the only one that, or triangles that you can put at the same things.
Right.
Once you do other shapes, you have to have multiple shapes.
Yes.
Hexagons would be, I don't know, the 4-side works. Hexagons, you have a bigger map, more ways to connect things. Triangles looks ugly for me, a triangle tile laying game. Some people say lanterns. How's that as a replacement for Carcassonne?
I haven't played Lanterns. I know I've played it, but
Lanterns was easier to play because the sides didn't really need to match. You could match them if you wanted extra stuff, but you didn't need to do that. But it was a very simple sort of set collection one. You grabbed colored cards and then cashed them in for a scoring tile. It was real light, really light, lighter than Carcassonne. So no, I like Carcassonne better. I think it's a little more immersive.
Someone asked if all Carcassonne cities come in the wooden box. No.
No, the new ones do not. That's the one I have. Cardboard box.
Some people say Isle of Skye replaces Carcassonne.
It's much heavier from what I remember.
It's definitely a different game. Isle of Skye, I felt there's a big Carcassonne. The game is the tile laying. You put a guy on it. Isle of Skye, there was other things going on too. Hanging Gardens, that's a tile laying game. One of them.
Sure. That was about creating clumps, groups.
The scoring system in Carcassonne is interesting. Says someone, the cities are worth more than roads. Roads are easier to do. Abbeys.
Something else that apparently changed was the rule for scoring a city just made of 2 little pieces. Back in my day,
hang on, Grandpa. Okay, I'm ready.
Each city tile was 2 points when you completed a city, right? That's the rule, unless it was just 2 halves. And at that point, they were like, no, you don't get 4 points for this. You only get 2 points for that.
Right. Is that not the rule anymore?
No, now it's 2 points per city tile. It doesn't matter. So that's 4 points now.
As long as you have a worker to place on it. You can't just score it. You have to have somebody available to place on it.
Well, of course. I mean, that's
well, what
the
about,
rule. But
but what about sometimes, I think in different Carcassonnes, can you put someone in something that's completed? Some of them you couldn't. Like, for example, the 2 city thing, half's already there. I put the half down, put a guy in, bring him off right away. Some, you have to have the guy already in the city and then complete it.
I had never played the second thing you're saying.
Where,
it's always been where you add a tile, you add a meeple, as long as there isn't someone else's meeple part of that feature, then you score, whether you completed it right now or not. If someone scored, they bounce back. That's it.
There's definitely one of them at least where you can't put it in stuff that's already finished.
Okay, then no, I have not played that. I don't remember it anyway.
King Domino and Queen Domino, are they good replacements?
I could see them as good alternatives. Certainly Queen Domino's got enough going on where it's going to keep your interest, I would say, if you enjoy the tile laying. But again, it's more about building groups, clusters, than it is about sort of connecting sides and winding roads and that sort of thing. Is a little less free form.
Yeah.
Wolf4 says, my Carcassonne has a rule where you score all uncompleted roads at the end of the game. Why would you do that? We always skip that rule.
Oh, you always do that, sure. You score incomplete roads at 1 point per, incomplete cities at 1 point per as opposed to 2. There's the risk reward.
Right, so the roads are easier to do because you'll score for them, but it still ties up your meeple.
Correct. Whereas the city, you're more likely to get more points, but if you don't finish it, you only get 1 point per.
Oh yeah, I love that rule. But if roads that weren't finished didn't score,
I would never go for it.
I would probably not put my guys in roads unless I was pretty confident I'm finishing that road.
Yeah, no, because they're just not as good.
Alrighty, well that looks like that's it for this time. So if you're watching this later on, put your comments about Carcassonne in the description. And let's see, did the poll change? Is it still at 112? Ticket to Ride still winning, 57. So There you go. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you watching. We'll be back tomorrow, live board game breakfast, and our top 10 games that make us feel smart.
Smart.
DicetowerRetreat.com. You can come join us. That's registration for that's live. And Dice Tower Cruise registration for that is going live on Friday. We're letting the people who came in previous years sign up first. And you better come back Friday because rooms are going very, very quickly for that. But anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thanks, everybody.
Sam Healy. See you on the flip side, folks.
Lay some tiles.